Before I tell you how this betrayal ends, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. And if you have ever been the responsible child who gets taken for granted, hit that like and subscribe button. You are going to want to see this. My name is Jada Harris, and I am 29 years old. My world is built on code logic and clean design. As a senior UI/UX designer for a major tech firm in Atlanta, my days are structured by deadlines, client presentations, and the calm digital flow of problem solving. My small apartment in Midtown was my sanctuary. Every minimalist piece of furniture, every neutral color palette was a barrier against the chaos of my family, the chaos that was currently blowing up my phone. I was in the middle of a critical Zoom presentation with a new client from Texas. My screen was shared. My voice was calm and professional, and I was walking them through the user flow wireframes for their new app, and my phone set to silent was lighting up like a Christmas tree. The screen illuminated Mom. I ignored it. Dad, Mom. I subtly shifted my weight trying to focus. As you can see from this data point, I continued, Brianna. Dad, Mom. It was now 8 missed calls. The client, a woman named Ms. Patel, paused. Jada, is everything all right on your end? You seem distracted. My face flushed. My apologies, Ms. Patel. Just a family matter. Please let me step away for 30 seconds. I hit the mute button on my mic, and camera snatched the phone off my desk and stepped into my hallway. My voice a furious whisper. Mom, I am in a major client presentation. This better be an emergency. The sound that came back was not an emergency. It was laughter. Loud, giddy laughter underscored by the honk of a car horn and music. Jada, sweetie, guess what? It was my mother, Lorraine. She sounded ecstatic. My sister Brianna, the 27-year-old golden child influencer, screamed into the phone. We did it, sis. We got the Mercedes GLE coupe. Can you believe it? I pinched the bridge of my nose. My patience gone. Okay, great. I have to go. No, wait. Mom got back on the line. That's not even the best part. It's all thanks to you, baby. Thank you. You're a lifesaver. A cold feeling started in my stomach. Thanks for what I didn't. What are you talking about? I didn't approve any transfer. My mother laughed that airy, dismissive laugh she used when she thought I was being silly. Oh, don't be dramatic. I withdrew from your savings account, sweetie. The transfer cleared this morning. We got a fantastic deal. $30,000 down payment. A cash offer. Can you believe it? It's perfect for Brianna's brand and her photo shoots. Isn't that wonderful? The hallway started to spin. I leaned against the wall, my hand shaking. My savings. Mom, what are you talking about? You can't. My name is on the account. You can't just take it. My mother's voice, the voice of a 55-year-old hair salon owner who knew every shortcut, suddenly lost its bubbliness. It turned cold, sharp, and condescending. Oh no, baby. You must be misremembering. Our names are on the account. My name and your father's. Your name is the primary, but we opened it together. Legally, Jada, it was our money to access, and we needed it for your sister. She's building her career for heaven's sake. I couldn't breathe. The $30,000 I had scraped together over years, every single dollar documented. Mom, I whispered, what am I supposed to do now? Anyway, she continued as if I hadn't spoken. The dealership was very generous, a nice family-owned place. They're letting Brianna drive it off the lot today. We have to go, baby. The salesman is here with the keys. We'll celebrate this weekend. Talk later. Love you. A click. The line went dead. I stood there frozen in my hallway in the very apartment that now felt even more precarious without my safety net. On my laptop screen in the other room, I could hear Ms. Patel's disembodied voice. Jada, are you still with us? Did we lose you? I stared at the wall. My shock was hardening, crystallizing into something cold, sharp, and heavy. They had finally pushed me too far. The war had just begun. I clicked end meeting on the Zoom call. I didn't say goodbye to Ms. Patel. I didn't apologize or reschedule. I just clicked. The laptop screen went dark, reflecting my own stunned blank face. My living room. My small, quiet living room suddenly felt like a movie set. It wasn't real. The soft beige sofa I spent months saving for. The framed prints I bought at a local Atlanta market. The faint smell of my budget-friendly essential oil diffuser. It wasn't secure. It was all at risk. No buffer. They gave me nothing but emptiness in my account. My mind reeled back trying to find the moment the trap was set. It wasn't hard to find. It was 6 years ago. I was 23, high on life, having just landed my first major promotion at the tech firm. I had started saving aggressively. $30,000 by now, but back then it was the beginning. It was a mix of scholarship leftovers I'd hoarded, every performance bonus, and cash from freelance graphic design gigs I took in college instead of partying. I was ready to build my future. I was so proud. I showed my parents the online banking app where I was tracking my progress. My mother, Lorraine, had smiled. But it was that tight salon owner smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, that's ambitious, Jada," she'd said, sipping her iced coffee. My father, Reginald, just nodded along, looking concerned. "Honey, your finances are still new," he said in that gentle, worried tone he always used before asking for something. "You're 23. Building a nest egg like this is tough. The bank will see you as inexperienced." I told them I didn't need their help. I told them I had the plan. My mother placed her hand on mine. "Sweetie, I know you're smart, but let us help you. Let your dad and me co-sign on the account. We have established banking history. It will make the interest better. It's just a formality, of course. Just paperwork to get higher yields. A formality. That's what she called it. And I, like an idiot, was grateful. I thought they were finally supporting me, seeing me as an adult. I added their names to the joint savings account. I deposited every check, and then the withdrawals never happened from me. But I built it up. Every single month for years. The interest, the bonuses, the side hustles. I never touched it. I never asked them for a dime. I was Jada, the responsible one. I was building my security. Or so I thought. Now it all made perfect, sickening sense. This was never about my interest rates. It was about their access. This was always the long con. My sister Brianna was the one who needed help. Brianna, who got a brand new red Jeep for her 16th birthday, while I had to buy my own used Toyota Corolla with my own waitressing money. Brianna, who dropped out of Clark Atlanta after one semester to become a full-time influencer, which really meant my parents paid for her trendy loft in Edgewood and her endless shopping sprees. I remember screaming at my mother about it once years ago. Why does she get everything handed to her while I have to grind for every single thing I have? My mother's face had hardened. She'd pulled that classic line, the one she'd used my entire life, the one that was designed to shut me up. Because Brianna is sensitive, Jada. The world is hard on a beautiful, delicate girl like her. She needs our protection. You're different. You're strong. You can handle it. She was right about one thing. I am strong. But she had mistaken my strength for stupidity. She thought I was a workhorse she could just ride until I collapsed. She thought I was a piggy bank she could just raid for the real daughter. They had just stolen $30,000 from me. They thought I would just handle it. The ice in my veins wasn't despair anymore. It was rage, pure, focused, and utterly cold. I grabbed my car keys from the hook by the door. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to war. The drive to Decatur was a red blur. I don't remember the traffic on I-85. I don't remember signaling. I just remember my hands gripping the steering wheel of my Toyota Corolla so hard that my knuckles were white. The same Toyota Corolla I had bought myself at 18 because my parents were busy putting a down payment on Brianna's Jeep. I pulled into their driveway, skidding on the neat paved stones. Their house was a cozy, 2-story, vinyl-sided home sitting on a well-kept yard in a neighborhood where everyone chatted and pretended to be content. It was the house my mother always boasted about, the symbol that the Harris family had stability, the house that screamed reliability and comfort to all her clients at the salon. I didn't knock. I didn't ring the bell. I used my old key and burst through the front door. Where is she? My father Reginald was exactly where I knew he would be. He was in the living room, sitting in his faded recliner, the TV blasting a basketball game. He looked up, annoyed by the interruption. Jada, what on earth you're letting all the bugs in? You took my savings. I screamed it. The words echoed in the vaulted entryway. You let her take my savings. My father sighed that deep put-upon sigh he always used when I was being difficult. He picked up the remote and lowered the volume, but he didn't turn it off. He couldn't even give me his full attention for this. Jada, lower your voice, he said, not looking at me. Don't come into this house acting crazy. We did what was best for the family. Best for the family. I was shaking. That was my money. That was my future. How could you just give it to her? Don't be dramatic, he snapped. It's just savings. Your sister needs this. Brianna is building her brand. Do you understand what that means? This guy, Derek, her boyfriend, his circle is influential. They have connections. This is a huge opportunity for all of us. She deserves a nice car. She deserves it. She deserves it at my expense. And what about me? What do I deserve, Dad? To be broke. You'll be fine, he mumbled, waving his hand dismissively. You're smart. You make good money with that design stuff. You'll rebuild it. You always do. That was it. That was my prize for being the strong one. My punishment for being responsible. I am calling a lawyer, I said, my voice dropping, becoming as cold as the rage in my stomach. I am calling a lawyer, and I am suing you both. This is theft. You stole from me, a lawyer. The voice came from the top of the staircase. My mother, Lorraine. She was in a comfortable floral robe, her hair perfectly styled. She looked like she had just finished a client. She slowly descended the stairs, one hand gliding along the banister. A lawyer, she repeated, tasting the word. She actually laughed. It was a short, sharp, ugly sound. Is that what you said, Jada? You're going to sue your father and me, the people who raised you, the people who put clothes on your back. You didn't put clothes on my back. I shot back. I've been funding my own life for years, and you just drained it. She reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped looking at me with something between pity and contempt. Go ahead, baby. Call your little lawyer. Spend the money. He's going to look at the paperwork and tell you the exact same thing I'm telling you now. The account has my name and your father's name on it. But the deposits, the years of saving, I have the bank records. Oh, sweetie, she said, stepping into the living room. That's so naive. Any money you deposited was a gift you gave to the family account. As far as the law is concerned, you were a contributor, an eager one. I'll give you that, but a contributor nonetheless. She walked over to my father and picked up a magazine from the coffee table. I am a licensed cosmetologist, Jada. I have been in this business for 25 years. I know exactly what I am doing. She tapped the magazine against her hand. You were building, but we protected the funds. And now those funds are going to be used for something more important, your sister's future. I just stood there speechless. The rage was gone. It had been replaced by a terrifying, cold understanding. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't a desperate, impulsive decision. This was a strategy, a long-term calculated plan. They had been letting me fill it up for years, just for this moment. My mother looked up from the magazine, her eyes completely void of emotion. You've made your scene. Now go home and start figuring out your budget. The car is already bought, and I'd hate to have you cause a scene at the dealership. That would look so messy. The next morning, I was sitting in a modern downtown law office. Across the desk sat Malik Thompson. We had gone to Morehouse together. He was the only person I knew who was sharper about details than I was, which is why he went into law and I went into design. I had already emailed him the scans of every document I had. The bank statements, the deposit history, years of records showing transfers from my paycheck to the account. I sat there vibrating with a cold, clear rage, waiting for him to tell me how we were going to crush them. Malik did not look at me. He was staring at his monitor, scrolling through the PDFs of the account opening documents from years ago. He let out a long, slow breath and leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Jada, he said, and his voice was flat. That's when my stomach dropped. They got you, he said. They got you good. What are you talking about? I demanded. My voice was sharp. I have the records. I saved every dollar. Every single month it is my money. Malik shook his head, and he looked genuinely pained. It doesn't matter what you saved, Jada. It matters what you signed. And years ago, you signed an account agreement that lists your parents, Reginald and Lorraine Harris, as joint owners. Your name is there, but they have equal access. Legally, you are not the sole controller. You never were. But the deposits, I insisted, my voice rising. The $30,000, that's theft. It's not, he said, cutting me off gently. It's their word against yours. That's what this is. We can file a lawsuit. Absolutely. We can argue for unjust enrichment. You were the primary depositor, but Jada, it will be a battle. He leaned forward. Think about it. Your mother is a business owner. She knew exactly what she was doing. The moment we file, she will countersue. She will claim the money was a family pool. She will claim your deposits were contributions to help everyone. Contributions? I scoffed. Who builds a nest egg just to hand it over? They'll say it was for shared goals, Malik said. They'll say whatever they want. And honestly, a judge might believe them. It's he said, she said in a family dispute. This won't be quick, Jada. This will take months. It will cost you $10,000, maybe $15,000 in legal fees. And at the end of it all, a judge might just say, it's a family matter, and refuse to get involved. You might not get a dime back, and you'll be broke from the legal fees. My stomach felt like it was full of wet cement. So that's it. They just win. They steal $30,000 from me, and they just win. As if summoned by the universe. My phone buzzed on the glass desk. A new email. The subject line was cold and personal. Official notice. Account overdraft. Joint savings. 56789. My hand was shaking as I opened it. It was from the bank. Due to recent withdrawal exceeding balance, your joint account is now overdrawn by $45. Please deposit funds immediately to avoid fees. I slid the phone across the desk to Malik. He read it and cursed under his breath. They're not even sorry, he said. They're playing hardball. I stood up. My body felt numb. I wasn't just betrayed. I wasn't just robbed. I was a fool. My mother had not just stolen from me. She had proven she was smarter than me. She had used my trust, my work ethic, and my love against me. And she had done it perfectly. I walked out of Malik's office in a daze. I got into my car and just sat in the parking garage, the overdraft notice burning on my phone screen. I was officially broke. I had lost $30,000, and just when I thought the humiliation couldn't possibly get any deeper, my phone lit up again. It was a new text message from Mom. Hi, sweetie. Just a reminder, don't forget about our big celebration dinner tonight, 7 p.m., at that amazing barbecue joint in Decatur. Brianna and Derek are so excited. We have so much to celebrate. Don't be late. A celebration. They weren't just robbing me. They were inviting me to the party they were throwing with my own money. They wanted me to sit there and smile while they toasted to my destruction. I showed up at 7. The barbecue joint was the kind of place that made you feel casual, but special, with wooden tables and smoky aromas. Men in polos and women in sundresses chatted over plates of ribs that cost more than my weekly groceries. I was wearing the clothes I had worn to Malik's office, gray pants and a cotton blouse. I felt like an outsider who had wandered in. They were already at a large booth in the corner of the room. My mother, Lorraine, was holding court wearing a new bright green top. My father, Reginald, was in a shirt I'd never seen, looking puffed up and proud. And then there was the golden couple. My sister Brianna was practically glowing, her skin flawless, her new designer bag catching the light from every angle. She was draped in a stylish yellow dress. Beside her sat Derek Lawson, her 28-year-old boyfriend. He was exactly what you'd expect, tall with a smooth, confident grin that never quite reached his eyes. He wore a casual button-down, the picture of effortless urban success. I slid into the booth, the vinyl creaking under me. Sorry I'm late, I mumbled. Oh, Jada, there you are. Brianna squealed as if she hadn't just helped empty my life. She leaned across the table and squeezed my hand, her nails digging into my skin. "I'm so glad you made it. Oh, honey, you look tired. Is the work just awful?" I can't even imagine. Her voice was full of that fake sweet concern she used. The implication was clear. "Thanks for the sacrifice so I can shine." Before I could answer, "Derek," the boyfriend raised his glass of beer to me. "Jada, right? Good to finally meet." He didn't wait for a response. "Listen, I just wanted to say thanks for the contribution." He said the word contribution like he was talking about a small favor. "I was just telling Brianna." He continued swirling his drink. "A car under $30K just isn't cutting it. Not with my friend's circle. It just wouldn't be right. So it's really great to see your family chipping in to make it happen." He smiled at me, a flash of perfect teeth. He was patting me on the head. He was a successful guy from a connected family, and he was thanking me for giving up my savings so he could have the right image. My skin was on fire. I looked to my father, hoping for even a flicker of defense. He was beaming. "Isn't it wonderful, Jada?" He boomed, oblivious. Our little Brianna upgrading with Derek's influence. What a blessing. My mother just smiled, a queen surveying her kingdom. She had won. She had secured the upgrade. She had bought her way into the social circle she'd always craved, using my security as the currency. The waiter arrived. "Can I get you a drink, miss?" "A sweet tea," I said, my voice tight. "The strongest one you have. And bring extra lemon." For the next hour, I sat there and sipped. I sipped as they discussed color options that cost extra $5,000. I sipped as Brianna debated whether her new car should have custom rims or tinted windows for her chutes. I sipped as my mother told a long, flattering story about Derek's job. Every laugh, every toast was a shovel of dirt on the grave of my old plans, and I was being forced to sit and watch the burial. I finished my third glass of tea. The anger and the caffeine were making my head swim. I couldn't sit there anymore. I couldn't watch them celebrate my depletion. I stood up abruptly. The table went quiet. "Jada, are you all right?" my mother asked, her brow furrowed in annoyance. I looked at her, my vision narrowing. I had one last card to play, one last desperate appeal to the woman who was supposedly my mother. "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice low and dangerous. I nodded toward the back of the restaurant. Now, in the restroom, my mother followed me into the restroom. It was all tile and fluorescent lights with soft country music piping in from hidden speakers. It was as cold and impersonal as a storage unit. She crossed her arms, leaning against the sink, her perfume filling the small space. "All right, Jada," she said, her voice sharp and annoyed. "What is this? You are making a scene out here. Derek is going to think our family is unstable." "Unstable?" I laughed, but the sound was bitter. "Mom, he thinks I donated my savings to his girlfriend's car fund. How is that not unstable?" I turned to face her. The tea had made me bold, but the desperation was real. This was my last chance. I had to try. "Mom, please," I begged, and I hated the sound of my own voice. "Please stop this. Call the bank. Call the dealership. You're the business owner. You can undo this. Say there was a mistake in the transfer." I stepped closer to her. That was everything I had. That was years of my salary. I will be struggling. I will have nothing. "Please, Mom, don't do this to me." My mother just stared at me. Her face didn't soften. She didn't look sad or guilty or conflicted. She just looked irritated, like I was a complaining client asking for a refund she had already denied. She turned to the mirror and pulled a compact from her purse. She began to carefully touch up her makeup, watching her own reflection instead of mine. "Don't be so selfish, Jada," she said calmly, her eyes on her own lips. My jaw dropped. "Selfish? I'm being selfish. You stole $30,000 from me." "I reallocated a family resource," she corrected, snapping the compact shut. She finally turned to look at me, her eyes as hard and cold as the tile floor. "You are 29 years old, Jada, and all you have to show for it is one savings account and that little design job. Your sister, on the other hand, is about to level up her brand, a network. The Lawson family has connections we have only dreamed of. This car isn't just a vehicle, it's an investment. It's about our future. It's about the Harris name finally meaning something in this city. But what about my name? I whispered. What about my future? She took a step toward me and actually adjusted my blouse collar. A gesture that was so maternal it made my skin crawl. Your future is to help your family. That has always been your role. You are the strong one. Remember, sometimes one person has to make a sacrifice for the greater good of the family. This time, Jada, it's you. She pushed past me, the scent of her perfume trailing behind her, and walked out of the restroom. She left me standing there alone, staring at my own reflection in the mirror. She was right about one thing. I was 29, and I was a fool. I had spent my entire life trying to win the love of a woman who saw me as nothing more than a resource to be drained, a sacrifice to be made. I looked at my face in the mirror. The pleading girl was gone. The desperate daughter was gone. There was nothing left in my eyes at all. Just a cold, empty, echoing silence. I smoothed my blouse, turned, and walked back to the table. I sat down, picked up my tea glass, and smiled at my sister, who was busy showing Derek pictures of car accessories on her phone. They didn't even notice I'd been gone. It was a few days after that humiliating dinner. I was living in a sea of budget spreadsheets. My apartment, my modest stolen security apartment, felt vulnerable. I couldn't stand to be inside it, so I was sitting in my car in the parking lot, the engine off the air, thick and still. On my phone, I had my banking app open. I was desperately scrolling, looking for ways to rebuild. 27 days. That's how long until rent was due without buffer. The costs made me want to be sick. Groceries, bills, emergencies, all requiring cuts now. I did the math. I didn't have it. My $30,000, my entire emergency fund was gone. They had taken everything. I would have to take a side loan, pay the interest, just to avoid eviction. Tears of pure hot frustration started to blur the screen. And then my phone rang. The screen lit up Mom and Brianna. A joint FaceTime call. My stomach clenched. I let it ring twice, but I knew they would just keep calling. I wiped my eyes and hit the green button. Their faces exploded onto my screen, beaming, flushed with excitement. They were somewhere shiny and full of cars, a high-end dealership lot. Brianna was standing next to a gleaming black Mercedes, posing for photos. She looked like a star. Jada. Oh my God, look, she squealed, doing a little spin. This is it. This is the one. Isn't it perfect? My mother was beside her holding a key fob. Hi, baby, she said, her voice giddy. We're just so excited, and we were just talking about you. We just wanted to call and say thank you for the upgrade present. Brianna put her hands together, her accessories flashing. Yes. Thank you, sis. Thank you for my car. I love you. They both laughed. A bright, tinkling, happy sound. They were standing next to a car that cost $30,000 down, bought with my stolen money celebrating. They were thanking me for it as if I had wrapped my entire safety net in a bow and handed it to them. I stared at them. I stared at their smiling, happy faces. I didn't say a word. My mother's smile faltered just a little. Jada, honey, did you hear us? We said, thank you. You know, for the savings money. I pressed the red end call button. The screen went black. The call was over. And just like that, the tears stopped. It was like a switch had been flipped. The hot rage, the despair, the suffocating sadness. It all vanished. In its place, something cold, heavy, and wonderfully solid settled into my chest. It was ice. I sat in the silence of my car for 1 full minute. Then I closed the banking app. I opened my other financial app. I logged in with my Face ID. My checking balance was low. I tapped on bill pay. Then I tapped on scheduled payments. My upcoming payments were listed. My rent, my car insurance, and then there it was. The big one scheduled to be paid in 2 days. The payment I had set up 7 years ago. The one I never missed. The one I never ever spoke about. Recipient Wells Fargo, amount $3,200. Memo mortgage account 7734-6. Property 45 Oakwood Lane. The cozy 2-story vinyl-sided home in Decatur. The house my mother was so proud of. The house my father watched games in. The house they were probably sitting in right now toasting their good fortune. The house I had been secretly paying the mortgage on for 7 years. I looked at the payment. I looked at the empty savings notification in my email. They had taken my buffer. So I took my finger and I pressed the button on the screen. Cancel this payment. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this payment and all future scheduled payments to this recipient? My hand did not shake. I pressed confirm. I left the parking lot. I couldn't go back to the apartment. I drove to a small, quiet park across town, one where I knew no one would recognize me. I got a bench I didn't need, sat in a shaded spot, and pulled out my laptop. I opened my secure drive, a place where I kept my tax documents, my old contracts, and one folder I hadn't opened in years. The folder was labeled Family Support. I clicked on it. Inside was a series of scanned PDFs and saved email threads, all dated 7 years ago. I was 22. I had just graduated from Spelman and had been at my first real job for exactly 5 months. I was so proud. I was making $45,000 a year, which felt like a fortune. I was living in a shared room and saving every penny. That's when the first call came. It was my father, Reginald, sounding shattered. He had been laid off from his warehouse supervisor job. The company was restructuring. He was 51 years old, and in his mind, his career was over. He was unemployed for 5 months. My mother, Lorraine, with her growing salon business, wasn't earning enough to cover their expenses. The cozy home in Decatur, the car payments, the neighborhood dues they refused to drop. I found the first document. It was a scanned letter from the bank addressed to Reginald and Lorraine Harris. The words were bold and scary. Notice of default. The bank was starting foreclosure proceedings on 45 Oakwood Lane. Then I opened the email. It was from my father's account sent to my new work email at 3 a.m. My 22-year-old self had read it on her phone while in bed. The subject line was just Jada. Jada, my girl. I don't know what to do. The bank is taking the house. Your mother, she's devastated. She can't face the clients at the salon. She can't face the neighbors. They're going to put a sign on our lawn, Jada. They're going to auction our home. Everything we've built, all our pride gone. I remembered the feeling of cold fear as I read it. You're the only one. The email continued. You're the smart one. You're the one with the steady job. I know you're just starting, but you're our only hope. I am begging you, Jada. Don't let them shame us. Please. I promise I will pay back every penny as soon as I get back on my feet. Please save your family. Save the family. That was always my job. I was the strong one, the responsible one. I didn't even think. I took my small savings, the $10,000 I had saved, and I called their bank. I, a 22-year-old woman, called a mortgage bank and asked to speak to the foreclosure department. I found the next email in the folder. It was from a bank representative sent to both me and my parents. The subject, Confidential Loan Modification Agreement, 45 Oakwood Lane. My 22-year-old self had thought she was a savior. My 29-year-old self, sitting in the park, finally realized she had been a mark. I hadn't saved them. I had just become their hidden lifeline. I looked at the screen at that email chain from 7 years ago at the Confidential Loan Modification Agreement. It wasn't really a modification. It was a bailout. A secret rescue orchestrated by a determined 22-year-old. The bank had agreed to halt the foreclosure. They agreed to restructure the loan, but they had one firm condition. A third-party guarantor had to step in. A third party with a reliable income had to co-sign and take on the payments. That third party was me. I, at 22 years old, with my fresh job history, had agreed. I took my new salary and directed it at their mortgage. The payment was $3,200 every month without fail for 84 consecutive months. I did the math right there in the park on my notes app. 7 years times 12 months times $3,200. I had secretly paid $268,800 to keep that roof over their heads. And the sickest part, the truly twisted part, they forgot. I am certain that at first they were thankful. My father repaid me twice, tiny amounts before he got his new lower-paying job. He said he needed to rebuild. My mother, the salon owner, had the audacity to tell me it was good for my credit score. But over the years, the narrative shifted in their minds. The convenience they told themselves that they had cleverly renegotiated, that the bank had lowered their rate generously. My $3,200 payment became invisible. It became routine. It was just a thing Jada does. She's the strong one. She can handle it. That payment, my secret sacrifice, became the unseen pillar of their comfortable life. It paid for the vinyl-sided home. It paid for their reputation in the neighborhood. It paid for their barbecues. It paid for the financial stability that allowed my mother to save her tips, the tips she used to help Brianna buy outfits. They forgot that I was their lifeline. They forgot that I was the only reason they had a home at all. And they had just stolen $30,000 from me to buy a car. They didn't just bite the hand that fed them. They cut it off at the wrist. They thought they had stolen my security. They had no idea they had just triggered their own collapse. I closed the laptop. The quiet click of the lid felt as final as a lock turning. The 84-month support was officially ended. The first of the month was in 2 days. The timer was set. All I had to do now was wait. 10 days passed. The first of the month came and went in a blur of overtime work and ramen noodles. I was now sitting on the floor of my cramped apartment. The walls were plain and the view was of an alley. My old savings, my cushion, was gone. I had to dip into credit just to cover utilities. The financial strain was immense, and the interest made my head ache. I was unpacking a box labeled Essentials when my phone rang. I looked at the screen. Mom. My heart didn't race. I didn't feel anger or sadness. I just felt a cold, heavy sense of certainty. The second domino was about to topple. I let it ring 3 times, took a calm breath, and then I answered, putting it on speaker. Hello. There was no bubbly greeting. No. Hi, sweetie. Her voice was thin, tight, and puzzled. Jada, something odd just happened. The bank called Wells Fargo. Oh, I said, pulling a plate from the box. Yes, she said, her voice growing agitated. They said we are 10 days past due on the mortgage. 10 days? Can you believe it? They've never made a mistake like that before. I told them, I said, we have never been late on a payment. It must be some silly system error. I thought maybe you'd know what to do. I looked out the window at the brick wall. The moment was finally here. It's not a mistake, Mom, I said calmly. There was a long pause on the other end. Just dead air. What? She finally said. What do you mean it's not a mistake? I mean I stopped the payment, I said. I unwrapped another plate. I heard a sharp intake of breath. You stopped paying what? What are you talking about, Jada? You don't pay our mortgage. We do. The ignorance was so deep, so profound. It was almost admirable. She had completely erased my 7-year sacrifice from her memory. No, Mom, I said, and my voice was as clear and sharp as a blade. You don't. I do. The mortgage on your house, 45 Oakwood Lane, the payment of $3,200. The payment that I have personally made every single month on the 1st for the last 7 years. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could hear her faint, shallow breathing. The payment, I continued, that adds up to $268,800. The payment that kept your beloved house out of foreclosure 7 years ago. That payment... I stopped it. Jada, she whispered. Her voice was no longer puzzled. It was quivering. I had to, I said, my tone light and matter-of-fact. I just couldn't afford it anymore. I had to cover my bills and build back my buffer, and my funds were a little tight. You know, since you withdrew my savings to buy Brianna's car, I guess you could say I reallocated a family resource. She didn't speak. She couldn't. I have to go, Mom, I said. I have a lot of budgeting to do. Goodbye. I hit the red end call button. I left her in the echoing silence of the financial ruin she had just uncovered. I looked at my plate. The first domino had just hit the second, and I knew the rest were about to cascade. The moment I hung up, my phone erupted. It wasn't one call. It was a barrage. First, Mom. I silenced it immediately. Dad. I silenced it. A new voicemail notification appeared, then another and a third. A text message from Dad. Jada, call me right now. This is not a joke. A text from Mom. Jada Marie Harris. You pick up this phone. This instant. You have made a horrible error. Call the bank. I didn't call the bank. I just sat on my floor surrounded by boxes, and I imagined the scene. I imagined the panic setting in at the cozy vinyl-sided home in Decatur. The scene shifts. We are in their warm yellow kitchen. My mother, Lorraine, is pacing in her robe, her phone pressed so hard to her ear, her hand is trembling. My father, Reginald, is slumped on a stool at the island, his face pale, listening on speakerphone. I'm sorry, Mrs. Harris, but as I've explained, there is no error, a calm, professional voice says from the speaker. It's Ms. Ramirez, a loan officer. The payment was scheduled for the 1st. It was canceled by the third-party payer on the 29th of last month. What third-party payer? Lorraine shouts, her salon poise completely shattered. We are the payers, Reginald and Lorraine Harris. We've been paying for years. There's the sound of keys tapping on the other end. Ms. Ramirez sighs. Ma'am, he says, and her voice is now wary like she's dealing with someone unstable. I am looking at the confidential loan modification agreement that was signed by you, your husband, and a third party 7 years ago. This agreement was contingent. It was contingent upon a guarantor, and Jada M. Harris assuming all monthly payments as those payments have now officially stopped. Your loan is in default. Reginald makes a small choking noise. Default? What does that mean? We'll just pay it? It's 10 days late. We'll pay the $200 right now. I'm afraid it's not that simple, sir, Ms. Ramirez says, and her voice is now firm. According to the acceleration clause in this agreement, the termination of the third-party payment plan triggers an immediate due on sale provision. A what? Lorraine whispers. The full remaining balance of your loan is now due immediately. My father looks like he's been hit. The full balance. How much is that? How much? More typing. The current principal balance on your mortgage is $280,650. That amount is due within 30 days, or we will be forced to begin foreclosure proceedings. Lorraine lets out a sharp, hysterical laugh. 280,000? That's absurd. We don't have weight. Her eyes widen with a sudden frantic relief. Yes, we do. Reginald, the savings. The money from the savings withdrawal. The 30,000. It's in the account. We can use it to catch up. She scrambles for her phone, pulling up their joint checking account, her fingers flying across the screen. She stops. The screen illuminates her face. Her face drains of color. Reginald, she says, her voice a low growl. Reginald, where's the money? My father won't look at her. He's staring at the countertop as if it's fascinating. The dealership, Lorraine, he stammers. What about the dealership? They called yesterday, he whispers. They needed the full down payment and options, the full 30,000. And Brianna, her accessories, and the insurance. Derek Circle wanted the premium model. Reginald. What did you do? I transferred it. He suddenly yells, his voice breaking. I transferred it all, Lorraine, just like you told me to. You said to pay the dealership immediately so they couldn't change the deal. You said it was all committed. You even transferred the last 5,000 to the tint shop this morning. A glass drops from Lorraine's hand and shatters on the floor. They just stare at each other. The $30,000 from my life savings is gone, spent, transferred, committed. And the $280,650 bill for their own house is sitting there due in full. They have no reserves. They have no cash flow. They have nothing. They are completely, utterly, and entirely bankrupt. The trap my mother had so perfectly set for me had just snapped shut on her. I let them panic. For 3 days, I heard nothing. The barrage of angry voicemails and accusatory texts went silent. It was a new kind of agony for them, a silence they knew they couldn't sustain. They had no leverage left. I had the control and, more importantly, I had the truth. I spent those 3 days working extra hours. Every email I sent felt like a small victory. Every design I refined reminded me that I was rebuilding. I was purging their hold. I was starting over hurt and poorer, but I was independent. The 30 days they had essentially given me to recover were ticking. I had just finished a freelance gig when my phone rang. It was not my mother or my father. It was Brianna. I almost didn't answer. I had nothing to say to her, but a cold curiosity made me pick up. I hit the speakerphone button and set the phone on my desk. Brianna. The sound that came through the speaker was not normal. It was a wail. A high-pitched, hysterical cry. You did this. You destroyed it. I hate you. I hate you. I waited. I just let her rant. It was the sound of a spoiled teen having a fit, mixed with the terror of a privileged woman realizing her glossy world was crumbling. Brianna, I said calmly, starting my computer. I have no idea what you're talking about. My car, my home, you monster. What did you do to them? What did you do? Through her gasping, ugly sobs, I started to piece together the story. The story of what had happened at the vinyl-sided home in Decatur that morning. She and Derek had been out all day. They were at a photo shoot, she sobbed. They had posed with the new car for her Instagram. They were discussing their next trip, a weekend getaway that Derek's friends were funding. She was, in her own words, the happiest I have ever been. Then they came home. She told me they walked in through the side door laughing, keys jingling, and they walked into chaos. The first thing she saw, she said, was my father, Reginald, our steady, quiet father. He was not in his recliner. He was on the kitchen floor. He was curled up, crumpled against the cabinets, weeping. Not just tearing up, she said, weeping like the world ended. My mother, Lorraine, the planner, was just standing. She was frozen in the middle of the kitchen in her work clothes, staring at a piece of paper in her hand. Her face, Brianna said, was ashen, and on their freshly painted white front door, there was a bright orange notice. Brianna told me she thought it was a mistake, some mix-up in the mail. What is wrong with you people? Brianna had yelled at them. Dad, get off the floor. You're being ridiculous, Mom. What is that ugly thing on the door? My mother. Lorraine didn't move. She just murmured, We're finished. It's done. Brianna, in her profound, entitled ignorance, didn't grasp it. She thought they were overreacting. She thought this was somehow about her. Stop it. You're scaring me. You're ruining our vibe. And that's when my father, the man who had dismissed my pleas, the man who had told me to stop being dramatic, finally looked up. His face was splotchy, his eyes puffy and red. He looked at his precious golden child, and he told her the truth. He told me, Jada, Brianna shrieked into my phone. He told me you paid for this house. He said you've been paying for it forever. 7 years. I corrected, my voice steady. $3,200 a month. 7 years. Brianna let out another wail. He said the bank is taking it. That the letter says they're selling our house. In 30 days, they're evicting us. They're putting us on the street. I gripped my mouse. 30 days. The irony was dark. And then he told me. She was choking on her words now. He told me about your money, the $30,000. He said Mom took it from you to pay for my. She stopped. The realization had finally hit her. All of it. The car, the Mercedes, the rims, the tint, the insurance. It was all paid for with my sweat, with my stolen money, and the payment that had funded it had just recoiled. Brianna's voice changed. The confusion was gone. It was now pure, unadulterated poison. You did this, she hissed. This is your fault. You set them up. You stopped paying. You knew this would happen. You were just jealous. Jealous? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Yes, jealous of me, of Derek, of my car. You couldn't stand to see me thriving, so you decided to ruin all of us. You'd rather see your own family homeless than see me have one perfect ride. I hate you, Jada. I will never forgive you for this." The phone call ended. She had hung up. I sat in my apartment in the quiet of my room. I thought about what she said. How my father had finally confessed. How he had admitted they stole my money right after he admitted I had been paying for their lives. He had finally told the truth. Not to save me, not to apologize, but because everything had collapsed and there was no one left to deceive. They were ruined. They had lost the house. They had lost the money. And they had lost their one great connection's respect. The network my mother was so desperate to tap into had just vanished. I closed my laptop and headed to bed. The storm I had started was now a full gale, and it had just made landfall. The ringing was so sharp it made me startle. It wasn't my phone. It was the buzzer from my apartment building. I had been in the place for years but never had unannounced visitors. I walked over and pressed the talk button. "Hello." A hesitant voice came through the crackle. Hi. This is Tony, the doorman. There's a group here for you." A family." My blood went cold. "A family?" "Yeah," the doorman said, and I could hear the unease in his voice. "They say it's urgent. A Mr. and Mrs. Harris and Brianna Harris and a Mr. Lawson. They seem, well, they're very distraught. Ma'am, should I send them up?" "No," I said, my voice instantly firm. "Do not send them up. I'll be right down." I didn't go down. I went to the small security camera feed on my app. I pressed the lobby view, and there they were. The image was fuzzy, but the desperation was vivid. It was the four of them clustered in the bright-lit lobby of my modest building. They looked out of place. My father, Reginald, was a shell. He was slumped on a bench chair, his clothes rumpled, his gaze on the floor. He looked like he had aged 15 years in 3 days. He was a defeated, emptied man. My sister Brianna was buzzing with toxic fury. Her influencer glow was gone. Her hair was disheveled. Her trendy clothes were wrinkled, and her face was red and swollen from crying. She was pacing the small area like a trapped beast. And my mother, Lorraine, the leader, the keeper of appearances, the proud, groomed salon owner who cared so much about looks. She was a mess. Her hair was unstyled. Her green top was creased like she had slept in it. Her face was naked, swollen, and tear-streaked. She was the one who had been buzzing repeatedly. Then there was Derek. He was not with them. He was standing apart near a fake plant. He was untouched. His hair was neat. His button-down was crisp. He was not upset. He was not sad. He was just observing. His arms were crossed and his face was a mask of cool, calculating disdain. He was an outsider. He was assessing his crumbling investment. I let them wait for 1 full minute. I watched my mother press the buzzer again, her hand trembling. I finally pressed the talk button on the app. My voice echoed through their humiliation in the lobby. "Can I help you?" Lorraine jumped. She rushed to the panel, her face filling the screen. "Jada. Oh, baby, thank God, Jada. Honey, please, you have to let us up. We need to talk to you." "I can hear you just fine from here," I said. My voice was flat and cold as the lobby tiles. "Jada, please," she cried, and the sound was raw. She was actually sobbing, big, ugly, gasping sobs. The leader was begging. "Baby, I'm sorry. I am so, so sorry. I made a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. I didn't understand the finances. Your father, we just got so excited for Brianna. You know how she is. We made a mistake, baby. Please." "A mistake?" I said into the speaker. "You call embezzlement a mistake. It wasn't. I didn't. We can fix this," she stammered. And then the real reason for her visit came gushing out. "Jada, the bank. They're taking the house. Our house, the neighbors. Jada, Mrs. Johnson, from next door. She saw the orange notice on the door. She texted me. She asked if we were relocating. I just watched her. She wasn't crying because she had hurt me. She was crying because her neighbor had texted her and the clients at the salon. She continued, her voice rising in panic. "The ladies' group. I'm supposed to host the holiday party. Jada, this will ruin us. This will ruin our reputation. Our pride. Think of our pride. She was pressing her hands against the panel now, a reflection of a beggar pleading for mercy. You have to fix this, Jada. You're the only one who can call the bank right now. Tell them it was all a mix-up. Tell them you'll resume paying. You have to just make it stop. Please, baby. Please. I let her words hang in the empty lobby. I let her sobs echo on the screen. I could see my father slowly look up at the camera. I could see Brianna stop pacing, her eyes wide. I could see Derek just watching. I leaned in close to my phone. No, I said. The sobbing stopped instantly. What? Lorraine whispered. What? What did you say? I said, no. I will not be calling the bank. I will not be fixing this. I watched her face crumble in real time. Jada, you don't mean that. You're just mad. I mean it, I said, and my voice was so cold it surprised even me. I am looking at you, Mom, and you are not sad, because you hurt me. You are sad because Mrs. Johnson saw the notice on your door. You are not here to apologize. You are here for a rescue. I took a deep breath. You want to talk about pride? Let's talk about it. For 7 long years, I paid $268,800 to protect your pride. I paid to keep your secret. I paid to make sure your clients at the salon thought you were a success story. I watched my father wince. I watched Derek's eyebrows arch slightly. And how did you repay me for that sacrifice? I continued. You responded by stealing $30,000 from me to buy a car. You took my buffer, my savings, and my peace of mind all to buy your image. I leaned in one last time. You said it yourself, Mom. Sometimes one person has to make a sacrifice for the greater good of the family. This time it's you. I let the words land. I watched my mother stagger back from the panel, her hand over her mouth. I watched my father bury his head in his hands. I think I said, my voice full of closure, that I have sacrificed enough. We're done. For a second, there was just stunned silence. Then, from the edge of the screen, Brianna lunged forward. The grief and panic in her face had been replaced by pure, blinding fury. Done! She shrieked, her voice muffled but clear. You're not done. You can't be done. She slammed her hand against the lobby door, shaking it. You let us in, she screamed, pounding with both hands. You fix this. You are ruining my life. You selfish. The doorman, Tony, visibly recoiled at the sound of Brianna screaming. I could see him on the feed stepping back, his hand on his radio. He looked like he was about to call security. Brianna was completely unraveled. She was pounding on the glass door with her fists, her face twisted and flushed with rage. You are a selfish monster, Jada. A selfish, envious, bitter monster. I just watched her. I didn't press talk. I just let her rage. You've always been this way, she shrieked, her voice breaking. My entire life. You were jealous when I got a Jeep for my birthday. You were jealous when I was homecoming queen. You were jealous every time Mom and Dad told me I was the charismatic one. You've been resentful since the day I was born. My mother. Lorraine tried to pull her back. Brianna, stop it. You're causing a spectacle. I don't care. Brianna yanked her arm away from my mother. She's the one causing a spectacle. She's the one destroying our family. She couldn't stand it. Could you, Jada? You couldn't stand that I was the one getting the $30,000 car, that I was the one dating into the Lawson circle. You just sat in your tiny apartment with your tiny design job, and you festered with envy. You saw me succeeding, and you just had to tear everything down. If you couldn't have it, nobody could. You'd rather see your own family homeless than see me have one perfect upgrade. She was panting, her chest heaving, tears of pure, unadulterated malice streaming down her face. My father was still slumped, sobbing into his hands. My mother was trying to restrain her daughter, whispering, "Stop it! Stop it!" Her own face, a mask of horrified embarrassment. Not embarrassment for what she did, embarrassment for what the doorman was seeing. And then a new voice cut through the air. It was not loud, it was not passionate, it was as cold, sharp, and precise as a knife. Enough. It was Derek. He had not moved from his spot by the plant. He had just watched. He had listened. And now he was speaking. Brianna's tantrum stopped instantly, as if he had turned off a switch. She froze, her fist still raised, and turned to him. The rage on her face was instantly replaced by a dawning, horrible fear. "Derek," she whispered. He slowly uncrossed his arms. He looked at the three of them, at my weeping father on the bench, at my begging mother, at his screaming, hysterical girlfriend. He looked at them like an executive reviewing a failed project. "So, let me just make sure I have this straight," Derek said, his voice quiet, but it carried across the lobby. "Let's just summarize the facts for my own clarity." He took one step toward them. My mother and Brianna flinched. 7 years ago, Derek began. "You, Reginald, and Lorraine defaulted on your home mortgage. You were facing foreclosure." "Correct," my father cried. My mother nodded, her body shaking. Then Derek continued. "Your other daughter, Jada, the one on the speaker, she secretly and without any obligation stepped in. And for 84 straight months, she paid your $3,200 mortgage. She paid my God. She paid over $268,000 of her own money to keep you housed. Is that also correct?" Lorraine couldn't speak. She just nodded again. "Okay, good. So, in thanks for this," Derek said, his voice laced with icy sarcasm. "Last week you, Lorraine, as a business owner, fraudulently withdrew from her savings. You stole, what was it? $30,000. Brianna started to speak. "Derek, no, it wasn't. I'm not done," he snapped, and she went silent. "You took that stolen $30,000, Derek said, and you and Brianna immediately spent it on a car for what, Brianna? A $30,000 down payment for us." Brianna was shaking her head, silent tears now streaming down her face. "Babe, please. It's not like that." "And now," Derek said, hitting the final point, "because Jada, the original supporter, has stopped funding your life. Your own home is in foreclosure. The $280,000 note is due. The stolen money is gone, and you are, for all intents and purposes, completely and totally insolvent. You're going to be homeless. Is that the gist of it? Did I miss anything?" No one spoke. The lobby was silent as a grave. The only sound was my father's labored breathing. Brianna took a desperate step toward him. She tried to grab his arm. "Derek, babe, listen to me. It's her fault. She's the one who did this. She set us up. It's a family misunderstanding. Tell him, Mom. Tell him it's not true. Tell him we have resources. Tell him you're a successful salon owner." My mother looked at Derek, her eyes wide with a desperate plea. "Please, Derek. It's just a temporary issue." "It's not." Derek looked at her. Then he looked down at Brianna. He looked at her hand clutching his shirt. And with 2 fingers, he very calmly, very deliberately removed her hand off his clothing as if it was contaminated. "Brianna," he said, and his voice was completely lifeless. "You told me your family was solid. You told me your mother was one of the top stylists in Atlanta. You told me your father was a stable retiree. You told me your family had savings and real stability." He shook his head, a small, almost amused smile on his face. "Resources, Brianna. Your mother is a thief who just got her own family foreclosed on. Your father is a crying wreck on a lobby bench. And you're a greedy, ranting child who just got exposed." "Derek, no!" Brianna screamed. I love you. Don't do this." He just looked at her. "Love, you don't even know what that is. You just wanted the image. You were willing to build our relationship on a foundation of theft and deceit." He adjusted his shirt. He took a step back, creating distance from all of them. "I can't," he said with a simple final shrug. "I can't date into this mess, this low-level scam family. My circle, the Lawson name, will not be linked with fraud or theft or, frankly, this level of pitiful desperation." He reached into his pocket. He pulled out his phone. "My contacts," he said. "We'll be in touch with your mother about any shared costs. We will be recovering whatever we can." He then looked at Brianna. His eyes were empty. "And Brianna, keep the car if you want, but consider us done. Do you understand me?" Brianna just stared at him, her mouth open, but no sound coming out. He didn't wait for an answer. He turned, his shoes echoing on the floor, and he walked straight out of the doors. He didn't look back. He just left them there. For a full 5 seconds, Brianna was frozen. She just watched the door close. And then the sound that came out of her was not a cry. It was a scream. A deep, agonizing primal sound of pure loss. She didn't just lose a boyfriend. She lost the car prestige. She lost the $30,000 image. She lost the connections. She lost the Lawson circle. She lost everything. She collapsed. She didn't just stumble. Her knees buckled and she fell to the lobby floor in her yellow dress, screaming and hitting the ground. My mother, Lorraine, and my father, Reginald, were frozen. They just stared. They stared at the empty space where Derek had been. They stared at their golden child, who was now a writhing, screaming mess on the floor. They had lost their house. They had lost their money. And now they had lost their one great opportunity. They were ruined completely, utterly. I watched them on the fuzzy screen. I watched them shatter. I watched all of their lies and greed and manipulation implode in the lobby of my modest apartment building. And I took my finger and I pressed the end button on the app. The feed cut out. The lobby and all its chaos was gone. All I could hear was the sound of my own quiet, steady breathing. I stood there in my apartment long after the image of my broken family had faded from the app. The buzzer was silent. The lobby, I assumed, was now a scene of blame and despair. The doorman, Tony, would be earning his pay tonight, likely having to remove them from the building. The adrenaline that had surged through me for the past hour ebbed away, leaving behind a cold, quiet resolve. I walked to the window of my rental. I didn't look down at the lobby. I looked out at the lights of Atlanta, a city I had navigated, a city where I had built a career, a life, and a fund that had been drained. My family, in their selfishness, had tried to dismantle the one person who was propping them up, and in doing so, they had brought their own home, the one at 45 Oakwood Lane, tumbling down on top of them. My phone buzzed on the table. My first thought was that it was one of them. A new number, a borrowed phone, another attempt to plead or intimidate. But the name on the screen made my pulse steady. Malik Thompson-esque, my lawyer. I picked up the phone. My hand was steady. Malik Jada. His voice was not calm. It was energized. He sounded thrilled. He sounded amazed. "You are not going to believe the call I just had. I did what we discussed. I sent the formal notice of intent to Wells Fargo Bank, and I asked, and he said, and I could hear him grinning. The beehive is officially stirred. Their entire legal team is in a panic. You were right, Jada. You were 100% right. Tell me," I said. "Okay," Malik said, taking a breath. "So, I sent the letter. I informed them that you, the de facto payer on the Oakwood Lane property for 84 straight months, were ceasing all payments. And then I told them why. I attached," he continued, "a copy of the withdrawal statement, the one you pulled from the savings account, the one showing your mother, Lorraine Harris, as the withdrawing party. Jada, the bank's lawyers didn't just see a default, they saw a huge liability alert. Think about it," he said, his voice accelerating. "Your mother isn't just a borrower. She is a small business owner with banking ties. She used her access to commit fraud. She fraudulently withdrew from a joint account, and in doing so, she directly caused another asset, their asset, the Oakwood house, to go into default. She has breached several banking agreements. She has violated her responsibilities. She has exposed Wells Fargo to a major lawsuit, not just from you, but from regulatory bodies. They are scared of the audit. They are scared of what else this probe might reveal about your mother's financial dealings." I listened. He was right. My mother thought she was savvy, but she had been careless. She had blended her business life with her personal wrongs. "They don't just want this resolved, Jada. Malik said they need it gone yesterday." "So," he said, "a senior legal officer called me an hour ago. She was very accommodating. She wanted to settle. She wanted to resolve this regrettable family issue swiftly and discreetly." "What kind of settlement?" I asked. The bank sees you, Jada. They see your 84 payments. They see your earnings. They see you as the dependable one. They see your parents as the huge risk they are. So, they are offering a deal. A strong deal. Malik paused. They are proceeding with the foreclosure on 45 Oakwood Lane. They are going to evict Reginald, Lorraine, and Brianna. No questions. And they are officially offering you and only you the option to assume the loan. I was silent. Assume the loan. You heard me, he said. You step in. You take over the remaining balance. 280, 650. The house is yours. The title is transferred. Your parents are out. You are in. It's straightforward. It's a complete victory, Jada. You get the house. You get justice. I walked back to the window. I looked down. I could just see the lobby exit. I saw my father, Reginald, a small, defeated figure being supported by my mother as they shuffled out to the curb. Brianna was following, her face buried in her hands. They looked lost. I thought about the offer. A $280,650 mortgage. I could manage it. I could assume the loan. I could get the house. But it felt unfinished. It felt like they were still escaping with something. The money, my money. The $30,000 they had cheered about. The money that was supposed to buy Brianna's Mercedes. It was still gone. No, I said into the phone. Malik was stunned. No? What do you mean, no? Jada, this is the triumph. This is the aim. Take the win. It's not the win, Malik, I said. My voice was quiet, but it was iron. It's a win. I don't just want the house. I want my money back. The $30,000, that is the part I care about. The house. The house is just the tool. Jada, I don't get it. How are you going to get the 30 back? That's a separate claim against your mother. That's what we discussed. It could take months. No, it's not, I said. The plan was suddenly clear. It was cold and it was flawless. It's not a separate claim. It is all one big, tangled, fraudulent act. And the bank is caught right in the center. What are you going to do? Malik asked. Here is what you are going to do. I said, you are going to call that senior officer back. You are going to thank her for her very kind offer to let me assume her $280,650 loan. And you are going to tell her I'm not interested. Malik was quiet. You're going to tell her I want to do something better. I don't want to assume her loan. I want to purchase it. I want to buy the note. The full $280,650 in cash. Her whole issue off her books by Friday. Malik stuttered. In cash, Jada? You don't have $280,650. You just told me they stole your $30,000. Exactly, I said. And for the first time in days, I smiled. A real cold, genuine smile. That's the tool, Malik. That's the endgame. You are going to tell that nice officer that I am keen to make her $280,650 problem vanish. I'll wire it to her by week's end. But unfortunately, my cash is a little locked right now. My $30,000 is inconveniently in the account of a committed car dealership, a transaction that her bank is now fully aware was funded by fraud. I let the concept sink. You are going to tell her? I continued that if she wants her $280,650, she needs to help me recover my $30,000. The bank has influence I don't, I said, planning aloud. They can call the dealership that processed the fraudulent transfer. They can call the car insurer. They can threaten federal fraud charges. They can have my mother's business license reviewed by morning. They can exert pressure that I, as a betrayed daughter, cannot. They need to reverse my mother's first wrong so that I have the funds to solve their second wrong. There was a very, very long silence on the other end. I just waited. Finally, I heard a low whistle. My God, Jada. And then Malik started to laugh. It was not a polite laugh. It was a deep, genuine laugh of pure, impressed, legal admiration. You're not offering them a settlement, he said, the grin evident in his voice. You're not even bargaining. You, Malik said, are an absolute strategist. You're handing them a weapon, telling them who to aim at, and making them do the hard work for you, just for the honor of letting you pay them. He laughed again. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'll make the call now. This isn't a lawsuit. This is a masterstroke and you just called checkmate. 30 days. 30 days is all it took for an entire facade to fall and for a new one to emerge. The final scene did not take place in a tense courtroom. It took place in Malik's sleek office on the 20th floor overlooking the city. Malik's plan. My plan had worked more flawlessly than I could have imagined. The bank Wells Fargo, faced with a potential large-scale lawsuit and a probe into one of their clients, did not just concede. They mobilized. They did what I, as a daughter, could not. They unleashed their legal power. It was not a discussion. It was a takedown. They called my mother, Lorraine. They informed her that her business was under immediate scrutiny for ethics breaches and fraud. They called the IRS to flag the fraudulent withdrawal. They called the State Business Board. Then they went after the money. They called the Mercedes dealership. They called the accessory shop. They called the insurer. They informed every single vendor that the $30,000 they had received were proceeds of fraud and were subject to immediate reversal. Derek's Circle, seeing a chance to distance their reputation from the mess, joined the bank's efforts, threatening their own actions against the vendors for accepting tainted funds. The dealership, faced with a legal fight against a major bank, and the loss in influence folded in less than an hour. The $30,000 down payment was refunded. The other vendors followed, frightened. The remaining costs, my parents had to cover that themselves. The bank gave them 48 hours. I heard through Malik that my father had to cash out his small pension. My mother had to sell salon equipment. They were drained dry down to the last dollar, just to make the amount whole. And now here I was in Malik's office. He slid 2 documents across the wood desk. The first was a cashier's check made out to me, Jada M. Harris. The amount $30,000, my money, and this, Malik said, sliding over the second thicker document, is the reward. It was the deed. The bank, in its deep appreciation for me resolving their nightmare, had sold me the $650 note on 45 Oakwood Lane for a very, very notable discount. I had just acquired my family home, the asset my mother had sacrificed me for, using the very money she had stolen from me. I picked up the pen. It was a solid, fine pen. I signed my name, Jada M. Harris, owner. I owned my money. I owned my security, which I had just rebuilt, and now I owned their house. I was in effect a property holder. Malik shook my hand. You didn't just win Jada, he said, his smile broad. You acquired the field. I drove to Decatur. It was the 30th of the month, the day the bank's eviction expired. The house, my house, looked altered. The yard was slightly unkempt. A budget U-Haul van was parked crookedly in the driveway, damaging the grass. I parked on the street and walked up the path. The first person I saw was my father, Reginald. He was struggling to carry a box labeled living room down the steps. He was frail. The box slipped. He didn't try to save it. He just let it drop, items breaking inside. He muttered a weak curse, and then just sat down. He sat on the step in his dirty clothes and put his head in his hands. A fully beaten man. The door opened and my sister Brianna came out. If my father was a shadow, Brianna was a specter. She was barely recognizable. The golden influencer was vanished. Her hair was in a messy ponytail. She wore old leggings and a faded shirt. Her face was gaunt, puffy, and lacking its usual shine. She looked at me, and her eyes were just empty. An empty, tired loathing. She was carrying a box of her old awards. She didn't say a word. She just placed the box on the lawn and went back inside. And then my mother, Lorraine. She came out holding a fan. She froze on the top step when she saw me. She just stood there, the fan in her hand. The Queen of Decatur, the master of looks, the woman who had dismissed me in the restroom. She was just a weary older woman in worn clothes getting evicted. I didn't speak. I just stood on my path. I watched them. I watched the remnants of the family that had tried to break me. Finally, Lorraine set the fan down. She walked slowly down the steps, stopping about 10 ft away from me. Her eyes were vacant. There were no tears left. You came, she said. Her voice was a dry, hoarse whisper. Are you here to gloat? Are you? Are you here to ensure we leave? Are you going to throw us out onto the curb, Jada? I looked at her. I thought about her words in the restroom. This time, it's you. I thought about her laughing on the phone, thanking me for the present. I walked past her. I didn't respond. I walked up the steps and into the entry of my new house. I looked around. It needs updates, I said to myself. I turned and walked back out, stopping in front of her. She was watching me, her expression a fearful, baffled mask. I reached into my bag, the one I had bought with my returned money. I pulled out a single folded document. "I'm not going to throw you out," I said. A sudden, pathetic, desperate hope filled her face. She actually stepped toward me, her hand outstretched. "Oh, Jada," she breathed. "Baby, I knew it. I knew you couldn't. I knew you still cared for us." I held up the paper and she halted. "This," I said, "is a rental agreement." The hope on her face disappeared, replaced by a stunned, empty confusion. What? A rental agreement?" I repeated, my voice clear and businesslike. "You want to stay in my house? You will pay rent. $3,500 a month. That's just below market for Decatur, but I'm being kind." Brianna, who had just returned to the door, let out a choked laugh. "We don't have $3,500, you villain." That I said, not even glancing at her, is not my concern. "I'm looking at you, Mom. It's month to month. First and last month's rent plus deposit due by next week. That's $2,500 to stay." Lorraine was utterly speechless. 10. We have nothing. We have nothing. You know that you took... I didn't take anything. I cut her off. I took back what was mine. You will have to sort it out. You're a top salon owner, aren't you, Mom? You know how this works. You know all about deals. You'll bounce back. You always do. I held the paper out to her. She just stared at it. "Welcome to reality," I said. "I hear Brianna is seeking sponsorships. Maybe she can start applying for jobs. That's a lot of rent to meet." I dropped the rental agreement at her feet. I turned, walked down the path, got in my car, and drove away. The scene shifts. It is 1 week later. I am in the house. My house. I am in the spacious upstairs room that used to be Brianna's. The girly decor is gone, replaced by my modern workspace desk. This is my new home office. I am on a Zoom call, but this time I am the founder. I've just started my own UI/UX consultancy. My clients have transferred. I am my own leader. I end the call and look out the window. The yard is being trimmed. I hired a crew. My family was obsessed with image. They were obsessed with what the neighbors saw, with the brand on the car, with the pride of the family. They were so busy constructing a front, they forgot to inspect the base. They never knew that I was the one for 7 long years who was secretly supporting the structure. They tried to drain my security to fund their show. They took $30,000 savings from me, and in return, I took a $280,650 house from them. I took an entire asset. The greatest revenge isn't always about destroying it all. Sometimes it's about possessing it all. It's about becoming the supporter. It's about becoming the owner. And the sweetest revenge of all, it's sitting in your new office, in your new house, holding the deposited check for $2,500. From the very people who tried to leave you insecure, they sorted it out. It seems they really needed a roof. Here is the lesson we can learn from this story. Your true value is never defined by those who exploit you. Jada's family saw her as a fund to tap, never realizing she was the secret pillar holding them steady. Her strength wasn't just her achievements, it was her insight. While they planned an upgrade, she held the key to their existence. Emotional freedom is crucial, but financial control is the instrument that restores justice. They stole her savings, but by knowing their vital flaw, she reclaimed an entire foundation. If this story resonated with you, hit like and subscribe. Have you ever had to choose between supporting your family and protecting yourself? Let me know in the comments below.